We'll get started. Again, good evening. On behalf of this project management team for the Sienna Mobility Project, I want you to invite to this Mobility Improvement Project update. My name is Shashi Kumar. I serve as your city engineer and director of public works, but there is a big team working behind me in getting this Mobility Improvement Project going. Next slide, please. Oh, very good. I just want to say a few words and pass this on to the Commissioner Grady Prestige from Fort Bend County, who is here, as well as our Mayor Robin Ellicott and our Mayor Pro Tem Anthony Morales, and I think I saw Council Member Emery. So I want to recognize them as well. Why are we here? As you all have seen, we have seen a lot of growth here in the Sienna area. Growth brings opportunities as well as challenges, and one of the challenges that we have is on traffic. The city realized this years ago. We have several mobility initiatives that we're working with other agencies to improve mobility in this area. We are here to talk about the upcoming Sienna Mobility Project, but I also want to remind you that Knight Road, which is from Fort Bend Toll Road, which currently is not contiguous, that's being widened and extended all the way to McKeever. That project is under construction. Now that street is parallel to Sienna Parkway. It is expected to shave off some traffic from Sienna Parkway. So that is a project that's currently under construction. The other project that's in the pipeline in the near term is the Watts Plantation Road resurfacing, and I would say expansion, because we're looking at putting some shoulders. That's the Watts Plantation between Sienna Parkway and Knights Road. So we'll be kicking off design again, and that's a project that's in the near future as well. Again, we're here to talk about Sienna intersection improvements. The county typically every 4 years calls for projects, and the city partners with Fort Bend County in implementing these kind of mobility projects. There was a call for in 2017. The city saw a need for some improvements here to alleviate congestion and mobility along Sienna Parkway. We submitted this project to Fort Bend County. It got incorporated. This is a $5+ million project, wherein the county is pitching in $2 million. The remaining funds the city is leveraging with the tax investment rezone for about $3 million to get this project underway. Again, my team will present this project to you today, and we're here to present the concepts that's in the design phase, as well as seek your comments or concerns that you may have. I strongly urge you to wait until the end of the presentation for any questions. Any generic questions related to the overall project, we'll answer them. But more importantly, we want to leave you with all your questions addressed. We have individual booths set up. There are 7 intersections. You may be interested in one particular intersection or location closer to your home. So we have team members here ready to answer those questions. So hold your questions till the end so we can break into those booths and specifically look at the exhibit there and answer your questions. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Grady Prestige, and I believe our mayor also wants to say a few words after that. Commissioner, it's yours.
Thank you, Shashi. Good evening, everyone. As introduced, I'm Grady Prestige, and I've had the honor and privilege for the last 31 years to serve as your county commissioner, and see some familiar faces, and I see your directors. I can remember your dike, your levy. It was ahead of its time. You talk about the Ike dike, you got the director dike in there. And so we've done a lot over the last few years to try to make things better as terms of quality of life in this area. And one thing I want to stress is that we realize that whether it's the city, the county, or TxDOT, we have the same bosses. You're the bosses, same taxpayers. So people always want to differentiate between the city and the county. Most folks just want it done. And so we've got a great working relationship with the city of Missouri City to do things both in their city limits, and the county does things on its own. If you think about Sienna Parkway is in Missouri City, but once you get past a certain level, you're out in the county. The residents, the rooftops are out in the county. And, I'm one of them. I live on the other side of the school. In fact, I can hear the school announcements in the morning. And I get up and say the Pledge of Allegiance like everyone else does. So it's close by. So I'm glad we're having this public hearing here. so you can get your input. So with that, I'm around for questions. I'll admit it, I'm one of the instigators of this thing, so I'll take all the credit and I'll deflect all the blame to Missouri City. Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Well, good evening. As Commissioner Grady lives here, I live right over there. So I can see the football field. But it's just great that we both are, Commissioner Grady's been here, as he stated, for 31 years. And as you know, that we have the Sienna Annex right there off of Sienna Springs and close to, of course, Sienna Parkway. I myself been part of Sienna Parkway traffic, impact of traffic for the last 5 years, or more than, probably about 6 or 7 years now. And I have seen this, all the posters back here, how this area has been grown. And we are growing continuously. We're also growing with our businesses in Missouri City. It's a great thing. Growth is a great thing, but that comes with mobility and movement of traffic and everything else that comes with it. So, as Shashi talked about today, and as Commissioner talked about today, today is an opportunity for you to ask questions. Any questions, myself is here. I do want to point out something through City of Missouri City. We have 2 council members who are here, have pieces of Missouri City that ends here. One is our Mayor Pro Tem Anthony Maroulis, and then we have our District D council member, Floyd Emery. At some point, I think he had this side, and then now somebody else has this side, and obviously we're gonna go ahead and redistrict next year. So we're gonna take everything away from Anthony Maroulis and give it to Councilmember Emery. So that's what we're gonna do. But all 3 of us are here to answer any questions that are pertaining to either this or something that's important to you. So we'll take those questions afterwards. We'll respect everybody's time. And I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Jeremy Davis. I'm the Assistant City Engineer here at Missouri City. A little bit of background on me. I've lived in Missouri City my whole life, and now I get to work for Missouri City. It's the greatest treat I've ever had. So I just want to say that first, and I'm going to be presenting our project purpose to get started. So as everyone said so far, there has been a need for improvements on Sienna Parkway. We've been experiencing a lot of growth throughout the area, developments and things of that nature. So the purpose of this is to help improve the mobility and the safety of the traveling public as they go from north to south on Sienna Parkway. On the right side of the slide, you'll see a crash summary. This data was taken from TxDOT and it was added to our report that we submitted along with this project. Next slide. So a little bit more on the background of this project. So this is from the 2018-2019 Sienna Mobility and Needs Assessment Study. The data that I just mentioned in the previous slide, that's the study that I'm referring to. So what we did was we analyzed Sienna Parkway's corridor from FM 521 to Highway 6, and the purpose of that was to identify which parts of the corridor were most affected by heavy traffic and mobility issues. So when it comes to the project prioritization and selection, like I said, we based it on the mobility and the safety needs for different parts of the corridor, and most of those needs came towards the north of the corridor. This project, like Shashi said, there's multiple partners in this. We have the City of Missouri City. We have the City of Missouri City Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone number 3. And we also have Fort Bend County, who funded through their 2017 County Mobility Bond Program. Next slide. So this is a list of the project locations, and we also have them even bigger on the back when we split into our breakout sessions so you can see them up close and personal. So you can see starting from the top, we've got Highway 6 at Sienna Parkway, Sienna Parkway at Trammel, Fresno, Sienna Springs Way Extension, Sienna Parkway at Sienna Springs, Sienna Parkway at Watts Plantation, Sienna Parkway at Sienna Ranch, and Sienna Parkway at McKeever Road. Next slide. And like I said before, here are the stakeholders, Fort Bend County, Missouri City, and our TERS Board number 3. And we also have been working heavily with the Homeowners Association as well. And with this slide, I'm going to transfer it over to our design team, LJA. But this just shows, like I said, the 3 partners, and then LJA, they're the project manager. So I'm going to hand it off to Lokesh Krishna. Oh, I'm sorry.
How y'all doing? I'm Noe Escobar with LJA Engineering. We were the prime engineer on these projects. Included on our team were a lot of other engineers that were selected through the Fort Bend Mobility Bronze Selection Committee. So you have Horizon Consultants, J-Mark Engineering, Pkwy Consultants, Alston Reed, Altera, and Burgo. I'm going to run quickly through each of the intersections, and like we said, we're going to have the big ones back here to answer any questions. So the first one, we're doing these right now. I'm going to present them kind of north to south, starting at State Highway 6. I think we have a slide later, but I do want to say that we're going to phase these projects. We're going to try to phase them to where each one of these projects would provide a detour, or so you're not having all of Sienna Parkway torn up at the same time. Phase them to where they make sense. We do have the traffic control plans back here. The agenda or the purpose of it is to try to move as much traffic north-south on Sienna Parkway. We are, with our traffic control, I mean, it is construction, so we're gonna have to narrow down the lanes, but we're anticipating keeping both lanes of Sienna Parkway open throughout the duration of construction. So at Sienna Parkway and State Highway 6, right now, eastbound, we would have a channelized right turn lane, which allows for people exiting Highway 6 to have a dedicated lane as they enter Sienna Parkway. That would extend down to existing Sienna Crossing, where the HED has an existing right turn lane. Northbound, we are widening to add 1 lane of traffic. It's shown that it's a right turn lane that we're adding, but we would reconfigure the whole intersection to allow for a dedicated ride down to State Highway 6, and then we would reconfigure the existing lanes to have a dual left onto Sienna or State Highway 6, and then a shared through left to get to the commercial property on the north side of 6. On Sienna Parkway and Trammel, Fresno, right now on westbound, there's only 2 lanes entering Sienna Parkway. We would widen that to allow for a dedicated left turn lane. What that allows to happen at the intersection for westbound Trammel is you can move more vehicles through that intersection with the signal timing that we have. We would take that signal timing and add it to the north-south movement so that you can move more vehicles north-south. We would also be adding an additional lane of traffic to serve as a dedicated right turn lane onto Trammel Fresno, which allows both of the existing lanes to free flow north-south. That lane would actually extend all the way down to Sienna Springs Boulevard, which is the next intersection to the south. I apologize, we did have to kind of move them I see everyone turning their heads. North is to y'all's left. So this is Sienna Springs Boulevard where the Shell station is. The concept here, what we've done is added a through lane of traffic, both northbound and southbound. That additional lane will actually extend through the intersection, and then it would narrow back down to a 2-lane. We already have that. At Fort Bend Toll Road and Sienna Parkway, it'd be the same concept. So we would be doing that at Sienna Springs, and the next one is Sienna Springs Way. That we've had a lot of questions on this one. This is for access and connectivity to the Fort Bend County Annex and the library. I do want to make sure that it's clear right now. The improvement would just be connecting from Trammel Fresno to existing Sienna Springs Way. North of that, where there are no improvements to McKeever Road, there will be no tie-in of McKeever Road at State Highway 6. There's a lot of obstacles that presents. So I know that was a big concern, so we wanted to make sure that we addressed that. This would just be connecting the parking lot to Trammel Fresno, and it would allow those people to get out to Sienna Parkway. At Sienna Parkway and Watts Plantation, same concept, but on this one we had some environmental issues. So we had to widen into the median, but we would be adding a lane of traffic, reconfiguring the intersection to make the existing left turn lane into a through lane, and then the new lane of traffic would be the dedicated left onto Watts. And again, that expansion would extend through the intersection and then transition down after the entrance to existing Avalon Plantation. Sienna Parkway and Sienna Ranch is one of the most congested intersections, so it takes a little bit more improvements. I'm going to run through each one of them, but right now there is dual left turn lanes turning onto Sienna Ranch Road. The issue whenever that was under design is there's an existing median opening that enters Primrose School and the commercial corner right there at Silver Ridge. So because that was in first, whenever they constructed the left turn lanes, you were limited by that median opening. So what we're proposing is we would close off that median opening. We would add a dedicated left turn lane that would enter into that commercial complex with Primrose. That would give these individuals, instead of having to cut across 2 lanes of traffic, you would have a protected left into the daycare and the commercial area. In addition, on the southbound, we would add that through lane all the way through the intersection, and it would turn into a dedicated right. What that allows you to do by closing off this median, right now this traffic backs up, and it backs up all the way past Silver Ridge, which also blocks some of the people trying to enter there. What this does is it allows 2 full lanes to queue, and we've maximized those lanes all the way back to where Silver Ridge is. And then the last one is also kind of one of the high priorities. Right now, there is no existing southbound left turn lane onto McKeever Road. There are some constraints with the existing bridge over GCWA. The first phase of this project is to add a left turn lane that would allow for approximately 2 to 3 vehicles to stack, just getting those vehicles out of the through lanes again, allowing them to move southbound. One of the future projects that we're going to highlight, with the TERS funds that we just sold, it did include the ultimate design of that, which would allow for that left turn lane to be designed per criteria and extend past that GCWA canal. In addition, northbound, we would have a channelized right turn lane onto McKeever Road, which would allow you to get out to 6 and alternate that. So some of the future projects I just mentioned, the McKeever Road, the reason we're restricted right now is because those 2 lanes are over a bridge, so we would widen that bridge to allow for a longer left turn lane. Shashi mentioned the Trammel Fresno road improvements, Watts Plantation, and then in the south that's not in this area, they are proposing widening Sienna Parkway from existing Waters Lake and the southern connection of Waters Lake as you continue down Sienna Parkway next to the other schools. They would widen it from there approximately a mile to the east, so basically halfway between 521 and Waters Lake Boulevard. And then the Toll Road Authority has a project, Fort Bend County Parkway extension, and that's to Sienna Ranch Road. That's projected out a ways. So we do want to, we have several methods for y'all to answer some questions. Y'all can come up and ask them, but for time, we'll probably answer questions for about 15 minutes. There are comment cards in the back if there's anything that you want to drop in the comment cards. And then we'll be up here for a while answering questions next to the easels if there's specific questions to any of the improvements that we have.
Joey, could you address, I know that you've got the general dates, winter, spring, et cetera, but just going backwards, you're going to start at McKeever. Is that correct? You've seen a Parkway McKeever?
Correct.
And move forward move north down.
Correct.
Okay.
So the question is related to sequencing of the projects and as to how we're going to sequence them. Starting at McKeever Road would be the first one. It's the most southern intersection, so that would allow for a detour out to State Highway 6. And then Lokesh can probably answer all of the sequencing questions as far as we would be staggering them. And we have them here. I kind of breezed over that part, but we can go over the sequencing with you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Councilmember, Mayor, and Commissioner. Sorry about that. I'm a Silver Ridge resident, and you know, and I really appreciate the concern to try to get more people through to Sienna Parkway to Sienna. But I think a major issue that we have here are the people who do not live in Sienna who have to cross Sienna Parkway with people going 45, 55 miles an hour. And if we try to push more cars through over wider Sienna Parkway, those of us who have to make that harrowing left into Silver Ridge or make a right out of Silver Ridge while people are crossing the bridge over the waterway, because it's a very oddly aligned bridge. You have to go over, you go up, and then you turn and you come down. And very few, you can barely see those who are coming out of Sienna Parkway, out of Sienna. And I'd like to see that issue addressed, hopefully, because I think that's the major safety issue. You know, the traffic issue that we have are the risk of people running into each other, driving too fast, or those of us who are turning out who can get T-boned. That's where our real danger is in this situation. And I'd like to see maybe some concern about those of us who do not live in Sienna, because I think we're the ones who are most at risk.
And thank you for your comment. I think the biggest question, like Commissioner touched on, everyone touched on, this is a Sienna Parkway mobility, but it serves several of the different communities.
Well, Commissioner, I want to address that question a little bit. We had to start somewhere to start doing the mobility improvements. So the study, there was a study done, and the study recommended these are the 7 critical improvements that we need to do. I want to emphasize that this is just the start, this is just the beginning, this is not the end of Sienna improvements. I think long term, we're looking at more improvements. And I fail to recognize the Assistant County Engineer Ike, who's there. Ike, if you can stand up, and the Commissioner is here. We are looking at future mobility bond programs, funding to do more enhancements. And again, this is just the start, and this is just the critical intersections. But down the road, we're looking at more improvements, and certainly we'll take your comments into consideration and see what can be done there as well.
Yeah. Coach, I want to get this right. You live here, you come out here, you concerned about right turn or left turn? Left turn?
You have to make a left out, you have to make a left in. And the right is actually a challenge as well, you know?
Okay.
Because you either run into people who will block the intersection, or you run into the intersection so freely, people who drive fast on the intersection.
So this is obviously just a peak time thing you're concerned with, right? During the,
Actually, it depends on the day. You know, if it's a peak time, you can be blocked. If it's not, you have a speed issue where you literally have to smash into the floor so you don't get run into by someone going 50 miles an hour coming out.
so let's see if we can do this. On the study, or on the plans, was there any traffic counts done here? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So
That's the important thing. We want to see just what the, because, ultimately, you got to do what the Uniform Traffic Guide says. And I'm sure that the traffic on Silver Ridge,
What I'm concerned about is that we're gonna set those lights that move more people.
Right. So,
That's
Shashi,
all
yeah.
faster. You'll see that intersection, create a bigger safety issue for those of us who have to make that turn.
I just wanted to point out a couple of things. What we did do a signal warrant analysis at this intersection back in 2019, when we did the mobility study, and the signal didn't warrant. Although the signal didn't warrant, we did take into account the safety concern over there. So what we did do to accommodate that movement is the dual left turn. We are adding additional pavement to the other side of the roadway, to the south side. So now, previously the vehicles were unable to make a easy U-turn. Now the road is wide enough to make a sweeping right U-turn more safely at a lot when you have a dedicated left turn signal to make that U-turn possible. This is more safer than trying to get out of Silver Ridge and make a left.
So now you tell the Silver Ridge residents they go right, and then when you turn to go into, see elementary kids have to make that turn. That's probably the turn made by most elementary school kids and the school bus. You're aware of that, correct? So that's the issue is we need to get out of our neighborhood settings, right? And the thing that scares me the most, living making that turn on the bus route. That's a huge issue. Don't get me wrong, I don't know people get really up and down so much traffic, but I also want to be able to make a left turn into my neighborhood safely and out of my neighborhood safely.
Yes, I have a couple. On the sequencing, I don't think you mentioned what the total time span is estimated to be on the various projects. I have another question too, but.
So with respect to sequencing.
Can't hear you.
With respect to sequencing, we try to add what the construction duration is for each job, and then we also put estimated completion date. Again, all of these are. We can talk more in the back, in the breakout session in the back. We do have a plan on how to build each one of these improvements. Like Noe mentioned, we are going to phase it such that not all the projects go at the same time and tear up the entire Sienna Parkway. So we're going to start from the critical ones to the south. When we go to Highway 6, we will make sure Trammel Fresno intersection improvements are done. So there is a detour, there is a rerouting option. And like again, the other thing like Noe mentioned, we are not going to restrict, 2 lanes off Sienna Parkway is going to continue being operational even during construction time. We'll make our best effort to keep both the lanes open. Maybe during night times or sometimes, there might be an hour here or there, they might have to close a lane to get some extra space for them, but we do intend to keep both lanes open.
And related to that, the Fort Bend Parkway extension, how is the building of the overpass? I mean, this is not your project, but is there coordination with respect to the building overpass over Sienna Parkway? And I don't know to what extent that will block traffic on Sienna Parkway.
Well, there's plenty of room to work with, and so there'll be an earthen embankment on both sides, and they'll set a bridge across it at some point in time. But there's plenty of room to work with. We won't impede traffic at all at that intersection. I also want to mention that that project is not happening in 2023. We're about to bid that project. The plans are complete to go from Sienna Parkway to Sienna Ranch Road. What we're doing now is trying to figure out the Sienna Ranch Road interchange. And we decided to go ahead and make that bridge happen now rather than later, because we're really moving fast towards getting the bridge across the river to tie into Thompson's and Rosenberg. And so that bridge is part of a current project. We're trying to work, and this is getting off subject a little bit, but we're trying to respect the fact that Sienna Ranch Road probably has the highest amount of pedestrian traffic at any road in the county. And so we don't want to impede that. So we're looking at possibly having the sidewalks to tunnel under the intersection and something along those lines to try to make it so that that traffic is not impeded and it's not a safety issue with people with vehicles getting on and off the toll road having to interact with pedestrians. And so anyway, that's not a part of this project, but hell, I can't hold water, so I had to go ahead.
Another related question, because that crash data, I mean, obviously speeding is important. Obviously, you make things easier to go through. It encourages the speeders to continue speeding, if not more. I just wonder whether there's any thought of adding any lights in any of these intersections. intersections. For example, this gentleman, now obviously if you had a light, I mean, but you don't want too many lights because then that slows down everything. But I just wondered whether adding lights at intersections is under consideration.
Let me address that. Before that, I want to touch a little bit on your construction sequencing project. We're finalizing plans. None of this has been bid, and as the team indicated, they'll be bid separately, so we'll have to stagger the construction. There will be ample notifications that the city and the other partners will put out when this project is bid, when the construction start will be, when the end will be, and if potentially if there is any lane closures, we'll notify the residents. Now getting to your question about putting a signal, we just can't go put a signal. We have to do what's called a signal warrant analysis. And typically, you don't put signals too close to each other, less than a quarter mile. It impedes the flow of the traffic. There is potential for vehicles to back up into the intersection. So a situation like this, for example, Silver Ridge, we looked at that potentially having a signal, and it did not warrant one, and that's why we did put it. But again, the city is constantly taking the volume measurements, looking at potential traffic growth, and if it warrants one, we will put it in our what we call the capital improvement program, and we'll go build those signals.
I've got a loud voice, I can talk. I have a two-part question in regard to the Trammel, Fresno, and Sienna Parkway. We live in Oyster Creek Farms. We have only one way out of our subdivision, and that's McKeever Road to Trammel, Fresno. At McKeever Road, we have a stop sign for Trammel, Fresno, and at Trammel, Fresno, to get out onto Sienna Parkway, we have nothing, not even a dedicated left turn light. And if you make it so that more traffic is going to go across Sienna Parkway along Trammel, Fresno, we're going to have a dedicated left turn signal. Is that going to happen? And how are you going to handle the stop sign at McKeever and Trammel, Fresno when you open it up to Sienna Springs?
Well, let me comment on that. Again, I'm a wing it because I'm a wing it. So right now, no one's going to go back to where you live other than your neighbors. Okay, so I don't see any increase in traffic. My big concern was to even suggest this project was the emergency response time. Ambulances coming out of there. A minute or two can save a life. Also, with all the severe weather we're having, we're moving towards making that annex building, which was an old HCC building, a shelter with all the capacity to handle what might happen if a levee is breached on the Brazos River. So, that's a concern. I think that for you coming out of your neighborhood, you'd have an option of going to Sienna Springs and going to that light if you're going southbound, if you think you're stacking up too much. But I don't really anticipate too much. While we're doing this intersection, it may be good to put a dedicated left lane because that's probably where most people are going to be going, coming out to go north on Sienna Parkway. I think now's the time to include that in design. I also want to add that one of the two roads that appear to be very unsafe to me, and like I said, I live right on the corner, is Sienna, Trammel, Fresno Road from Sienna Parkway to Highway 6. It's amazing that there are no vehicles off in that, Oyster Creek, okay? It's scary, it's dark, it's not pedestrian or bicycle friendly until you get down behind the shopping center where you got some sidewalks and the apartment complex. So one of the things we want to do is make sure we improve that to the standard, to the prevailing standard in the area. And the prevailing standard in the area is not a two-lane asphalt street with ditches anymore. It's concrete, curb and gutter, or at very least a wide concrete pavement that allows for shoulders. So I'm concerned about that, and this project kind of necks it down a little bit, but believe me, I want to have that improved and safe with lighting and something that can accommodate a stranded vehicle or a pedestrian or a bicycle. Also, sidewalks on Sienna Parkway. You know, that's, you know, I'm concerned about that because there's nowhere to walk, okay? And people are walking, people are riding bikes, and sometimes riding in the lane of traffic is not safe. Okay, so I want to look at that. We got to work with the developer, work with some of the subdivisions along there to make that happen. You got this great big outfall ditch there that you got to deal with, and look at some of the neighborhoods built there, monument signs right there where a sidewalk might be if we could do a sidewalk on the levee. So I'm committed to that. We have some sidewalk money, and we will try to do that to the extent we can. Ms. Director, I hope I answered your question.
Well, I just want to know if we're going to have a dedicated left turn signal at Trammel, Fresno, and Sienna Parkway, because we all make left-hand turns there, and right now, most of the people coming that way are turning left. But if they have access to go straight down and then get over to Sienna Springs, because a lot of them live down Sienna Springs, they're gonna be zooming through there, which will leave us no way to make a left-hand turn.
Well, I think that adding a left turn lane right now is a damn good idea.
But a light.
Okay, but I want the engineers to hear you say that. Okay.
A light.
It is a light there.
No, not for a left-hand turn.
Oh, it's a dedicated left turn light signal. Oh, okay, all right. That's easier. Okay.
Okay, good.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say that's gonna happen.
And then also, you did not answer the, if we come out of McKeever and Trammel Fresno goes straight through, what we have now is a stop sign. How is that gonna work?
Come out of your neighborhood.
Yes, before we come out of McKeever.
I think that there'll probably be more traffic, be less traffic coming out of your neighborhood, so you will probably have a stop sign.
Fine.
Yeah. So probably a stop sign on, is that McKeever? What's that right? That's McKeever right there.
Always stop.
I don't know. The traffic warrant study probably would dictate that. Yeah. It's usually a ratio of the traffic in either direction. If you got 10 cars going one way and 2 the other way, that doesn't warrant a signal or some type of stop sign. It's got to be closer to 50-50 to warrant that. Yeah. But your point was made. I think that the left turn signal onto was stroke of brilliance. Okay, so.
So Mukesh, if you can address that question, is it going to be a two-way stop or is a tri-level stop there at the intersection?
So right now, since once we extend Sienna Springs Way, this will become, well, both of them are collector roadways, but the alignment would become such that this would be this aligns to be straight, so there is less visual issue with looking at the vehicles on the opposite side. So the volumes are all pretty much, it's not really critical of an always stop control. We did an always stop control warrant, but the numbers are not there yet. So right now we are proposing just adding a stop sign just to Trammel Fresno Road, one single stop sign. The northwest will be free, and Trammel Fresno will stop at the intersection.
Very good. Any more questions before we break out to the sessions? Any generic questions that you have on the project? Otherwise, if you have any specific questions at the intersections, we'll just break out to the intersections and take those questions.
What issue precipitated the need to extend Sienna Springs up to Trammel Fresno? Why?
When the county acquired that building information seat, we looked at a number of things to try to make it functional. College has a certain traffic pattern, certain attendance, and the annex does too. And it looks like it just made sense to connect it across the levee so that the ambulance can get out of there and that patrons can come in without going all the way down around Sienna Sienna Springs and Sienna Springs Way. So, thought it made sense to connect it. You have Stubb Street with a barricade there, why not connect it? But emergency response was my primary concern for my ambulance. The ambulance, before we bought that annex, the ambulance, they were in the city's fire station. Okay, and so when we purchased the building, we had to kind of justify what we're doing. And so right now, that building houses a lot. There's units there, our training facilities there, our building and collections operation. There's full dorms, and I mean, it's really a really major hub for our EMS service. So you know, there's a lot of traffic going in and out here. We thought if we saved a minute or so getting out there, it might save a life.
I'd like to ask the question if on Trammel, Fresno, coming from Highway 6 to Sienna Parkway, is that being widened to 4 lanes? No.
This is just the interchange, guys.
Just the intersection.
There's some improvements there.
So, like Noe mentioned, over here, we are adding a dedicated westbound left turn lane to get onto southbound Sienna Parkway. And we are also adding a northbound lane, which essentially extends all the way from Sienna Springs intersection down south, and all the way north, and it becomes eventually a right turn lane at Trammel, Fresno.
What about saying, Hazel,
Yes.
that
It's on the screen right now. My intent is to improve that section all the way to Starbucks, to make it safe. It is not, it's narrow, the mailbox is there a lot of things we can do, and with sidewalks, okay? And the most important part to me is when you cross the creek. There's no guardrail, there's nothing. It's amazing there are no vehicles down in there. It's a blessing. I don't want to take a chance.
Well, they may be in there, we won't see them because of all the weeds and stuff that have come up.
So the prevailing standard, I mentioned this earlier, the prevailing standard in the area is for concrete street, curb and gutter. That's antiquated 2-lane asphalt road with deep ditches and a creek there that with no guardrail. That is not acceptable. And no lighting. Okay, so we want to improve that intersection, that roadway. Right now, we're talking about the intersection right now. We're going to tack on that and continue on back all the way.
No more hand. I know the weather is getting better. You all want to get home. Our goal here is to end this meeting at 7:30. But if you have further questions, we got the intersections marked up there. One of us will be there at each of those intersections. You're welcome to go in there, and we'll answer any other questions you may have. Now, one thing I want to make sure is there is a comment card. If you have any comments or concerns, I strongly urge you to put it there. Our team will look into it. It could be part of this project or something down the road. We'll look into those things.